Hello and welcome to another video with Professor Choi. Today we are here to have a quick conversation about how does the government calculate the unemployment rate. So how does the government calculate the unemployment rate? Well, as always, I have to apologize because I'm going to be doing some math. But here we go. So the official unemployment rate in general is calculated by looking at the amount of people that are unemployed divided by this metric we call the labor force and then multiply it times 100. So whenever your government says the unemployment rate is, say, 10%, they're not saying that 10% of the population is unemployed. What they're saying is that 10% of the labor force is unemployed. And there is a big difference between the amount of people in population and the amount of people in the labor force. So the official unemployment rate is really an estimate of the amount of people out of the labor force that are unemployed. Now, the labor force is basically the sum of the amount of people that are employed and the amount of people that are unemployed. Now, here's an interesting data for the United States. In the US, the estimate for the population for the year 2020 is 331 million people, while the estimate for the labor force is 157 million people. All right? So as you can see, only about half of the US population is actually part of the official labor force. Now, how do we know the amount of people that are employed so we can figure out the amount of people that are on the labor force so we can calculate this number here? Well, we figure it out by looking at corporate payroll and government payroll. Now, most people get their payroll deductions every 15 days or every 30 days or every week, depending on when you get paid. And major corporations and government entities normally report those numbers to the government pretty much regularly. So we know how many people are on payroll for those particular companies and for the government most months pretty much regularly. Now, there might be some companies that don't do that regularly, but that's okay because we're just trying to figure out what the kind of guess for the unemployment rate is. And we do it with the numbers that we have. All right, now how do we figure out the amount of people that are unemployed? Well, we basically look at the amount of people that file for unemployment claims, and we also compare that to the change in payroll. Now, I need you to understand basically that let's say that my company has today 10,000 people on payroll, but then next month it only has 9,000 people on payroll. What that basically meant is that 1,000 people lost their jobs. Now, of course, there might be another company where their jobs went up. In other words, their payroll numbers went up. So what we basically do, or what they do at the unemployment office, and they do at the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, is using that information of changes in payroll plus the amount of people that are filing for unemployment claims. They basically try to figure out, using that information, how many people are officially unemployed. And they use that number for employed and unemployed in order to fill in right here where it says labor force. All right, the last thing that they do is they do this general population survey. So what they do is they basically call thousands of households and they ask these general questions of, are you unemployed, how long you've been looking for a job, etc., 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 or if you're not unemployed. So with this survey, together with the information that we collect for employed and unemployed, the federal government, specifically the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, comes up with that estimate for the official unemployment rate for the month. Now, the last thing that they do with the data is they do what we call a seasonably adjusted unemployment rate. And this is something that for some people might be a little trivial. But in general, what it means is that plenty of jobs in the US, I want you to think about winter versus summer. These jobs are they're jobs that are basically seasonal. So those jobs tend to increase very rapidly during particular seasons and decrease very rapidly during particular seasons. In order to make sure that our unemployment rate doesn't look extremely weird at any month, what we basically do is we change the weights for particular months so that it kind of smooths out those major changes that happen during particular seasons. Okay? So that's what we call seasonably adjusted. So, if you watch the video again, you can get a basic idea of the math that the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US uses to figure out how to calculate the official unemployment rate in the US, which is really trying to figure out how to put numbers on the numerator and the denominator on this basic formula. Alright, well, I hope you learned something more today with Professor Choi. Remember to check out more of my videos on my YouTube channel. Okay? So, thank you very much. Have a good one.